video
individuals can inspire, but it is the
doesn't kind of tighten the muscles in your throat.
People,
if this video doesn't make your lower lip quiver just a little bit, if it doesn't make your breath catch in your chest just a little bit, then you're a sad, cold-hearted motherfucker, and I don't want to know you.
They keep coming. Add one more name from Ontario and carry me home down the highway of heroes. People above with the flags flying low. Carry me softly down the highway of heroes. True patriot love. There was never more. I serve with distinction, no visions of glory. I serve without question, a personal gain. Seek no justification. It's not part of my story, and it offers no comfort to the ones who remain. Just carry me home down the highway of heroes. People above, but the flags flying low. Carry me softly down the highway of heroes. True patriot love, there was never more. I took up my vocation. I was called by my nation without hesitation. My answer I gave. Now I'm not wondering the things that I might have been. No consolation to the forgotten rain. So carry me home down the highway of heroes. People above with the flags flying low. Carry me softly down the highway of heroes. True patriot love.
Hi, everybody. Just give me a few minutes here. I'm getting Doug and Dan all set up on Skype, and we're going to get the show on the road. This is Les Smith doing an original called Susanna, backed up by Trick Bag out of Hamilton, Ontario.
Know how to make a man feel better.
Hi, folks. Oh, wow. There we go. Hi, everybody. I've got Dan Dubois here ready to come in. I'm just making sure I've got things set up with Skype. Get his picture centered in the screen here. Move me back in. And while Dan is talking to you folks, I'm going to reach out to Doug Force and bring him into the Skype call, because Dan wants to give you a little background on what tonight's show is all about. And once I've got these two guys up on Skype, I'm going to dip out of the way, and it's their show. I'm just going to sort of sit back like Johnny Carson and drink my moonshine and smoke my vape, and the two of them, if they need me, I'm right here. So if Doug knows that I have documents that if he needs them, I can pull them up for him. And Dan, if there's anything you need from whatever, I'm here listening. So, okay. So let's bring you over here. There, everybody can see the two of us now, and I'm going to go open my Skype and bring Doug into Skype, and you go ahead and tell people whatever it is you wanted to tell them before we get started here.
Okay. For those of you that don't know who I am, my name's Dan Dubois, and I'm the National President for Canadian Combat Coalition, and we're also known as C3. So, as many of you know, I get bombarded with all kinds of information, so I'm tardy sometimes in actually doing my due diligence and looking up facts and history on some of the stuff that's shared to me, as far as seeing if it's actually true or not. So anyways, most of you are aware of the de jure government, and I'm sure most of you are aware that there seems to be two versions of it out there. And that's what made me delve into the de jure government presented by both parties. And we're not going to point the finger at just one person here, because fact of the matter is, in all fairness, there's parties involved here. Like on one side, there's many of you know him as Jesse James. His actual name is Dallas Hills. And a friend of his, Neil. Forgive me, Neil, for forgetting your last name right now. But they're just two of, that group of people that are trying to introduce a de jure government into Canada, or actually propose it to the people. So Paul Chauvin, and again, it's not just Paul Chauvin, but Paul Chauvin is kind of leading the narrative, because he's made numerous videos out there promoting his version of, or their version rather, let's be correct here, of the de jure government and how they plan to implement it into Canada. Well, don't tell me I said all that for nothing.
Yeah, you did, buddy. You said all that for nothing because I forgot to click the audio. So you can start again. I haven't reached out to Doug yet. I was waiting until you got a little closer to the end of what you were saying.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll just
now it's
start.
Just you, anyhow. I did some editing on the screen and whatnot. I'm not the best at tech here. I admit that. I try my best, brother. I'm sorry. So back up and start again, Dan. For people who don't know you, ladies and gentlemen, for anyone who doesn't know, this is Mr. Dan Dubois. Thank you for the phone call, by the way. I'm going to hang up. This is Mr. Dan Dubois, National President of C3, officially known as Canadian Combat Coalition. C3 is the group hosting a rather large and rapidly growing rally, the second annual Canadians for Canada rally in Ottawa, Parliament Hill, Saturday, July 20th. At the same time, that weekend, my good friend Mr. Eric Brazeau and his associates are holding the Music Fest for Vets on the Friday the 19th, Saturday the 20th, and Sunday the 21st, with camping available. It's only 30 minutes from Parliament Hill. You can go and spend the weekend listening to awesome music in a kid-friendly environment. Okay? I want to stress that point. And on Saturday afternoon from 3 till 7, or earlier if you want, we'll be there by noon, but everything's going to start at 3. From 3 till 7 on Saturday the 20th on Parliament Hill, C3, Canadian Combat Coalition, will be hosting Canadians for Canada, Part 2.
Exactly.
And this is Dan Dubois. Say hello, folks.
Hi, Patriots. Can everybody hear me now, at least? Maybe
they can hear you now, buddy. I'm going to turn my mic off so nobody hears me bitching at myself.
Okay, fantastic. So maybe it's also worth mentioning that at that rally, Doug Force, Barry Prince, Dallas Hills, Duke Willis, myself, and numerous other speakers are going to be there speaking. We're trying to get Jamie Nix. I don't know if you've heard his new song out there. Jamie Nix, we're hoping will attend, even if it's just to make an appearance, and we'll play his song over the audio. So anyways, the reason we're here today, I'm here to set the tone before we bring Doug Force on as to why we're actually making this video this evening. So as many of you know, I'm bombarded with information from members, from patriots, from other groups. It's unreal. I can't even respond to a fraction of them, and I can't even see them all. I'm weeks behind, to make it a long story short. So anyways, many of you have heard of the de jure government, and so have I, and I've just recently really started delving into the two camps that are presenting the de jure government. There's Paul Chauvin, and in all fairness, it's not just Paul Chauvin. It's Paul Chauvin and numerous other people behind him, and Dallas Hills and Neil, and I forget Neil's last name. Sorry, Neil, I apologize. But and numerous other people behind those people. They're presenting a version of de jure government. So there's two versions up there. So I started researching the two versions because I wanted to know what made it a fact that they separated into two camps. So I looked into Dallas Hills version. I kind of like it. And this is not endorsing people here, folks. We're dealing in facts, and I looked at what they were presenting to the Canadian public and the citizens, and that's what we're here to talk about. It's not about the people, Dallas or Paul or anything, but fact is we have to mention them. So anyways, when I look at Paul's version, and again, it's his whole camp, I'm going to use Paul as reference because to differentiate which version I'm talking about is de jure to de jure. So Paul's version is actually trying to.
Dan, can I just ask a clarification here?
Yeah.
With regards to Dallas or Jesse,
yeah,
are you speaking in reference to his current movement of a de jure government on the concept of the myth is Canada premise?
Yes.
Okay, because going back 6, 8, 9 months ago, Jesse Dallas was supporting a different form of and I just want to make sure which part of the timeline we're talking about here. So we're talking about current. When you reference either Dallas or Jesse, what you're referencing is the same concept that I'm supporting, that Doug Force has been putting forward for over almost 2 years now, that I've known about him since late fall of 2017. That's when I first heard about him on 8chan, ironically enough, among the Anons They were
Yeah.
talking about this Canadian who says their government is illegal. And I
Right.
looked into it, and that's how I found out about him.
Yeah.
But yeah, as long as I just wanted to clarify that, because Jesse has been involved in other movements prior to what he's involved in now, right?
Jesse, rather Dallas, and that's his real
Yeah,
name.
yeah.
Dallas.
I'm sorry. I call
Yeah.
him Jesse because that's the
That's
name he's
his
been
name,
using
yeah.
while he's in FB jail. It's like people calling me Amanda when I use Amanda's profile, right?
Very cute, Amanda.
I know. She's at
Yeah.
her parents for the weekend. I'm home. I'm bacheloring it all weekend, so I'm.
You know, if we go back that far, fact is that Dallas was actually in with Paul Chauvin.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, so that's where they fractioned off. Is there was a disagreement as to the implementation of the de jure government. Like Paul's camp supports a monarchy. They've actually got
Pretty
a
much,
king.
yeah.
Yeah. So
It's one of
that's
the
what
reasons why I have never ever in the year and a half I've been doing live shows, I've never really talked about him or given it any kind of credibility, because as soon as I dug into it to see what they were on about, it was like, wait a minute, this has got nothing to do with we the people.
No, and not only that, is the documentation they're using is out of the 13 and 1400s.
It's all dead. The Magna
That's right.
Carta's
It's been
dead.
archived. You can't even use that documentation. Has zero relevance
Okay,
to
so
law.
I interrupted. I don't mean to interrupt. Keep going with your intro here. I'm going to go bring Doug Force in and let him listen, okay?
But you brought up the points that concerned me. I'm concerned with a group of people that are trying to bring in a monarchy. We know monarchies don't work, and in my opinion, and in many people's opinion, monarchies are dictatorships.
Well, of course they are.
Yeah,
That's why England created a parliament, and the Queen really has no power whatsoever. Everything has to go through the parliament to become law. There he is. Hello, Mr. Force.
And there we go.
Let's make
And
sure I
that's
got you on
why-
the screen.
Can you hear me?
And I'm gonna cut to the chase here. That's why Doug and I reached out to each other because of concern. So with that all said, that's why Doug is on tonight with me, and Doug will clarify exactly what's going on here. And I'll tell you, he's going to make it as clear as brookwater, because I've spoken to Doug, and I'm totally on board with what Doug is saying. And Doug, I believe exactly. Well, you know what, Doug? I'm not going to bore everybody. I'm going to let you go ahead and tell everybody what's really going on here.
Cool. Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be on, and I see you're wearing some of your swag. You got your hat and your T-shirt, so I thought I would bring some of our swag on tonight.
Awesome.
Show off our new hats, our new T-shirts. They'll be up on our Mrs. Canada swag page in about 10 days. Sean is getting all that finalized. And so we've got these beautiful black or red T-shirts and black caps with our logo on it that will be available for people. So, but tonight, we're not going to talk about the myth is Canada. Tonight, we're going to talk about some historical documentation that the people on this other de jure Canada seem to think has some holding in law. And the first thing I want to do is I have a email from a particular lady that sent me this. And I'm going to read a little bit of it because it's actually quite long and quite confusing. She says, perhaps a bit more research should be done before making such statements as the one by Jesse at the top of the post. Okay, the Magna Carta is a treaty that was created long before any parliament ever existed. Therefore, it stands forever. Only those who created it can dissolve it. Yes, they did turn it into an act, but that is unlawful, and all changes to it are null and void. Either way, the Magna Carta is the grandfather of all constitutions, blah, 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 blah. She goes on to say, Article 61 has been used 4 times in the 800 years that it has been in existence, and all 4 times the Magna Carta has prevailed. It will work again. The last time it was used is 1688. So people, got a pen and paper handy, I want you to write that date down, because that's a very important date, because the 4 times that it was used, and the last time was in 1688. Okay? So I've got this little piece out of the way. Now I'm going to read you Once Upon a Time story. Because it's late at night, so I know there's people who are sitting in bed watching this. So once upon a time, before the year 1066, the people of England held allodial title to their land. Not even the king could take their land for not paying a tithe. William the Conqueror came in 1066 and stole the king's title and took the land of the people. For William I of 1066 to King John of 1199, England was in dire straits. It was bankrupt. The king invoked the law of mortmain, the dead man's hand, so people couldn't pass their land on to the church or anyone else without the king's permission. Without mortmain, the king would lose the land he controlled. The Vatican didn't like that because the king owed a lot of silver to the Vatican. King John refused to accept the Vatican's representative, Stephen Langton, who the Pope Innocent III installed to rule England in 1208, and was placed under papal interdict. King John was excommunicated, and in trying to regain his stature, he groveled before the Pope and returned the title to the kingdoms of England and Ireland to the Pope as vassals, and swore submission and loyalty to him. King John accepted Langton as Archbishop of Canterbury and offered the Pope a vassal bond of fealty and homage. 2 months later, in July of 1213, King John was absolved of excommunication at Winchester by the returned Archbishop of Canterbury, Langton. On October 3rd, 1213, by treaty, King John ratified his surrender of the kingdoms to the Pope as the Vicar of Christ, who claimed ownership of everything and everyone on earth. So, we have a question. What did the contract of 1213 AD create? Did it create a trust or a contract? Only the 2 parties, the king's heirs and the Pope's heirs, can break the contract. For the trust, contract cannot be broken as long as there are heirs to both sides of this contract. Oh, there we go, people. Remember this. I'm going to come back to this in just a few minutes.
As long as there are heirs.
Okay. I'll come back to it in a few minutes, Duke. So King John, basically, he did what we call an oath of fealty. And the oath of fealty, now here's the funny thing. So today I got up this morning and I went onto the internet and I Googled this stuff. So everything tonight that we're going to talk about, I got off the internet this morning by just simply putting it into a search engine and bringing it in, and I found it all. Now, this is not hard to do if you're doing research and you're offering stuff to people that could literally change their lives. By not doing the research, you're changing their lives for the worst, and they could wind up going to jail if they follow you. So, the oath of fealty, it says, I, John, by the grace of God, King of England and Lord of Ireland, from this hour forward will be faithful to God and blessed Peter and the Roman Church and my Lord the Pope Innocent and his successors following in Catholic manner. I will not be party in deed, word, consent, or counsel to their losing life or limb or being justly imprisoned. Their damage, if I am aware of it, I will prevent and will have removed it if I can, or else as soon as I can, I will signify it, or will tell such persons as I shall believe, will tell them certainly. Any counsel they entrust me immediately or by their messengers or their letter, I will keep secret and will consciously disclose to no one to their damage. the patrimony of blessed Peter, and especially the realm of England and the realm of Ireland, I will hold and defend against all men to my ability, so help me God and these holy gospels. And basically, in plain English, he gave England and Ireland in perpetuity through heredity to the Pope and the Vatican. He became the manager, the Pope and the Vatican became the owners. Now, in 1215, the barons were a little upset when King John gave away, basically, their lands. And so they held him to account. And the Magna Carta was signed by the manager in 1215. Now, this Magna Carta was never ratified, yet people use it today, and they pull Article 61, oh gosh, it's the 1215 Magna Carta. Well, that's not the one that was in law. The one that was in law was the 1225 Magna Carta. Now, when I say in law, it had to be signed, ratified by the Pope in Rome in order for it to be in law. Don't forget, King John gave away the kingdom to Rome. He was the manager. But the Pope in Rome wanted one change. In the original Magna Carta, if you go down into the first paragraph or the first section, it talks about, in the last sentence or so, we have also granted to all free men of our kingdom. Now, free men is two words. Remember that. I'm going to read you the same sentence from the 1225. We have also granted to all freemen, one word. The difference being is the Magna Carta 1215 talked about men and women, sovereigns. The 1225, a freeman under Roman civil law is a slave with rights and privileges. Think about that.
Wow.
So in order to activate Article 61 in the Magna Carta, that is in law during that time, one had to go and ask permission from the Pope, because if you're a slave with rights and privileges, you have to go to your owner to get his acknowledgement of you invoking. How wonderful is that? But, well, no, as we know, something happened over the years. The Catholics were run out. Now, remember I talked about 1688 being the last time the Magna Carta was used in law. Well, you know why? Because in 1689, a little thing came along called the English Bill of Rights. And under the English Bill of Rights, they got rid of the Catholics. Now, I once again Googled it. It was there online this morning. There it is there. You can see it on. Now, the first part of it talks about the Lords spiritual and temporal and commons assembled, blah, 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 Lords and commons, and so forth. They are talking about now the Lords spiritual and temporal is the Protestant church, and commons are the people. This is one of the foundational documents of the constitutional monarchy that's in England today. So we go to the second page. Hold that up so y'all can see it. And I'm going to read a little paragraph here. It says, and whereas the said late King James II, a Catholic, having abdicated the government and the throne, being thereby vacant, His Highness the Prince of Orange, whom it hath pleased Almighty God to make the glorious instrument of delivering this kingdom from the poverty and arbitrary power, did by advice of the Lord spiritual and temporal, and drivers principal persons of commons, cause letters to be written to the Lord spiritual and temporal, being the Protestants, and others to the several counties, cities, universities, boroughs, and synod ports, for choosing of such persons to represent them as we were right to be sent to Parliament, to meet and sit at Westminster upon 22 day of January in this year, 1688. In order to such an establishment as their religion, laws, and liberties might not again be in danger of being subverted, upon which letters election having been accordingly made. So they go on within this Bill of Rights to talk about that the pretended power of suspending the laws of the execution of laws by the regal authority without the consent of Parliament is now illegal. So within these next few clauses, this is the foundation of the constitutional monarchy. As you can see, the regal authority without the consent of Parliament is illegal. So we go on. I'm going to pick up the pace here a little bit because it's rather a long document. I'm going to come into the last couple of pages here. Now it says very specifically, and whereas it hath been found by experience that it is inconsistent with the safety and welfare of this Protestant kingdom to be governed by a popish prince and by any king or queen marrying a papist, I'm sorry, I mispronounced that, papist, the said Lord Spiritual and Temporal and Commons do further pray that it may be enacted that all and every person and persons that is, are, or shall be reconciled or shall hold communion with the see of the Church of Rome or profess the popish religion and shall marry a papist shall be excluded and be ever incapable to inherit, possess, or enjoy the crown and government of this realm of Ireland and England and its dominions. Remember I said, remember about the heirs and successors? It ended the oath of fealty. That paragraph ended the oath of fealty, hence ending the Vatican's hold over England and Ireland and the British Empire. It also ended the Magna Carta. It had no standing in law. So when people claim Article 61 of the Magna Carta today, they're claiming under a dead document.
There you go.
It's there in black and white, and it took me about an hour this morning to Google this information. I printed it off, and now I've read it to you. Now you can go on, and it's quite simple to find. It's on Google. If the people that have been telling you about this had only taken a few minutes themselves to actually do their own research, they would have discovered exactly what I've discovered right here and right now, that the foundation of whatever it is that they're trying to put forward is based on a lie. Now I'm going to move on because I've seen Mr. Chauvin's partner wave a document around called the British North American Act that he claims is the Constitution Act, that he claims he can, thanks Duke for that little comment, that he claims is an active constitution here in Canada. Now, I've gone over this on a number of different videos, once a few times with Duke. I'm sure we've discussed this on your show. I did it on a Liquid Lunch, and I do a full breakdown of the British North American Act in one of the tutorial videos that will be available here in about 2 weeks. But today I'm going to give you a little piece of that video that we're going to be releasing in about 2 weeks. And I actually printed off the script, so I have notes to go by. Well, no, come on. I might have a good memory, but it's not that good. And anyway, so the one thing I wanted to point out, first of all, just to show what the British North American Act was, it was letters patent. And the reason it was letters patent is because when Lord Thring created it from the Quebec resolutions and wrote it and then passed it through the House of Lords, he passed it through the House of Lords with an opening paragraph in the preamble. And that opening paragraph said, by reason of the request of the colonies for a federal government, it is expedient, therefore, that they have laws and regulations to guide them. Now, When it went to the House of Commons, it didn't have that clause in it. He removed it, and he removed it for a reason. This document was going to be used as letters patent. If the clause had remained, if this opening paragraph had remained in there, the British North American Act would have gone to MacDonald, and he would have taken it back to Canada as the founding document for Canadian Confederation. But instead, it passed the House of Commons and was sent to the Court and Chancery. And then the first Governor General of Canada was brought into the King James Court? Hang on, just let me check my notes. I want to get this right.
Doug, before we go a bit farther, can you explain to people what you mean by letters patent?
Well, I'll get to that in a minute.
Okay, because I know that's sort of a technical term that people, you don't hear it on a regular basis, okay? And it's unfamiliar to a lot of people, and I think they might understand a bit better if they had a bit better grasp of what letters patent meant. It's in short term, it's sort of like the sheriff giving you a letter that says you're a deputy.
Okay, Duke, I'll get to it in a second.
Okay.
Before I'm going to do a quick little backtrack here, because there was I wanted to read about the Quebec resolutions, and this is very interesting, so that they kind of get a foundational knowledge of what actually took place in 1864. The debate on the Quebec resolutions in October 10th, 1864, in the legislature of Upper and Lower Canada, enacted by ratification on March the 13th, 1865. Immediately, the Imperial Parliament countered the move by enacting the Colonial Laws Validity Act on June 29th, 1865, to show the colonists that it was they and not the colonial legislature that had the power to govern. Revisiting the draft and briefing the Quebec resolutions in the form of a bill called the Kingdom of Canada Papers, John A. Macdonald and the delegates from Canada, Nova Scotia, and New Brunswick presented these to Earl of Carnarvon, Secretary of the Colonies, on December 26, 1866. Instead of bluntly refusing, the Earl of Carnarvon delegated Lord Thring, Parliamentary Secretary to the Treasury, to draft a bill to conform as much as possible to the Kingdom of Canada draft, but to nullify its purpose and to give the authority of the Governor General to the Act. As a dictator, John A. Macdonald got a wife and a title and a membership to the Privy Council. And the delegates from Canada had no part in drafting the British North American Act on March 29th, 1865, and no certified copy of this act was brought to Canada. The act was drafted by Lord Thring, and then he passed it through the House of Lords with the opening paragraph removed when it went through the Commons, hence becoming letters patent. Now, letters patent are designed for, I'll give you a little history. Letters patent were first used by the church to hand the various parishes off to the priests. Instead of changing all the documentation when the new priest came into the parish, they would simply hand him letters patent, and he would take over that parish under the letters patent as a corporation sole. The same thing for the Dominion of Canada. The Dominion of Canada is actually a corporation sole. They needed letters patent for the Governor General to take his seat in the corporation sole to run the central legislature of a united colony, which is all the British North American Act is. It is not a constitution, for it constitutes nothing. Now, in 1893, the Statute Law Revision Act removed certain clauses from the British North American Act. And two of the most important clauses that were removed were A, the enacting clause, and then Section 2, which is a real doozy because it took away the Queen. Well, didn't actually take her away. Queen Victoria lived until 1901, and upon her death, there were no monarchs after that, because that clause removed the successors and heirs, and hence the British North American Act actually died at that point. But because in 1901 they were a little crazy, they continued to issue it as letters patent, but they knew they had to end it at some point in the not too distant future. It actually took them 30 years to finally get around to doing that. There was a lot of conferences held, 1926, a big conference held here in Canada that was created by the Native Sons of Canada, a gentleman by the name of Russell Rogers Smith, who organized and did that conference. The conference resolutions were handed to Mackenzie King. Mackenzie King then took them to England and gave them to the English Parliament, and those resolutions were actually inserted into the British North American Act for Canada, and the British Statute of Westminster, were inserted into the Statute of Westminster for Canada, and the Statute of Westminster was then issued through the Parliament, brought to Canada, and ended the Governor General's position, the corporation sole and the Dominion of Canada, the letters patent, the Central Legislature of the United Colonies, and the British North American Act became null and void. Has no standing in law. It's a nice document. It's actually in the UK Parliament. The one we have here in Canada is a photocopy that's in our archives, and the one that seems to be thrown around by Jeff over at the du jour is nothing more than a photocopy. It has no standing in law. And so when you look at what they're doing and how they're doing it, and the documentation that they claim has the ability to make the changes, well, it has no standing in law. And it doesn't take much to go on Google and figure this stuff out. It's all there. The British North American Act, you can go to the UK archives and download the original. It's the Statute of Westminster is in the UK archives. You can download the original. Nothing here, nothing in the Canadian archives, because it never belonged to Canada. It was the UK's property. And Canada never, ever received, after the Statute of Westminster, the provinces became sovereign. They were the only ones that could request a copy of the British North American Act if they wanted to use it for a blueprint to help them make a constitution. But that's all it was good for. When the enacting clause was removed, it couldn't be reenacted. They would have to rewrite the entire thing with an enacting clause in, pass it through the House of Commons, then pass it through the House of Lords, then pass it through the House of Commons. Do you know how hard it was in 1867 to get this thing passed? I mean, it was so difficult. The House of Commons had only 3 days to pass it. It was almost like, well, Nancy Pelosi says, when she said in the States, if you recall, she says, well, we can't read Obamacare. We have to pass it first, and then we can read it. Well, that was what Lord Thring was doing with the House of Commons in 1868. He was pushing it through. It went through 3 readings over 3 days, and he grabbed it, took it to the Court and Chancery. Court and Chancery signed off on it, ran it over to the Court of St. James, where the Queen Victoria actually handed it to the Governor General as letters patent. 1931, it's over. So I can't express more as to what's going on with this other du jour. Tonight, these are the foundational documents that they claim give them the ability to do what they're doing. And as you can see, it's complete balderdash.
Unreal. It's funny that they don't know that themselves. Like, I'm not the sharpest pencil in the box, but I'll tell you, the more I delved into it, the more I smelled a rat. Like, I thought, this doesn't make sense. And not only that, who would endorse the ideology? I can't believe that anybody would even endorse that ideology, like to set up a monarchy again. Well, right there, they lost me, you know.
Dan, the thing is that, like I said, I was on the internet. I Googled this stuff. I didn't run around. I didn't have to go to Ottawa or fly over to England or any of that stuff. I did that this morning. It took me a couple of hours. And here we are tonight. I think that they were either disingenuous or didn't care. They had an idea, they thought they could pull this thing off, and they didn't bother to do the proper research. Over at The Myth, we have all the documentation I talk about on the air is on our website. And anything that isn't there, I encourage people to email me, and I'll go find it and send it to you. Read it, come to your own decision, and then, and only then, come back to me. And if you have further questions, I'm available. And I'm not scared to answer. I'm on Facebook all the time now answering questions from people who have, one gentleman, very interesting guy, he got a little pissy with me yesterday, but that's okay. That's fine. He didn't understand what letters patent are. And I tried to explain it to him, and he kept, not really grasping. So I'm hoping at some point, there's about 20 different posts now that we've been going back and forth with, that he actually goes off and does a little research himself rather than me, holding his head and spoon feeding it down his throat.
When, if I may ask a question, when do you figure you might have your movie completed? And I'll tell you why I ask, because I strongly believe that it may be the catalyst that'll spark the Grand Awakening.
Well, and the problem,
movies.
The thing that we're doing right now with the swag, with the tutorial videos and so forth, we're going to do that to start raising awareness, but also raising money to make the movie. And so I initially, 2 years ago, I started with a budget of about $500,000. I thought we can get it out with about 500 grand. I've made some massive changes to the movie itself. Rather than going out on location, we're going to go into studio and use green screen, which is about 1/3 of the cost of going out on location to shoot. And so because it's very document heavy, and we can use green screen to bring up the documents, et cetera, et cetera. I was going to use inserts while we were out in the field and doing the interviews and so forth, but we've had to, in order to make the budget much smaller, I brought it down to around $200,000 right now. If we can raise that over this time period, then if I can get $50,000 to start it, we can probably, because then I can start releasing clips of it and so forth, driving more people into this, making it, and I'll do it. I'd say even 25 grand to get going, but in order to rent the studio space, in order to do the green screen, because the script is all there. It's all there.
So it's all written to go. It's just a matter of shooting it.
It's just a matter of shooting it, and it's a matter of getting the money to do that. We want to be able to take it across Canada and bicycle it, what's called bicycling in the theaters, and so we put it up on a big screen. These cameras that we have today, they're great, but as soon as you blow them up to a big screen in a theater, they depixelate. And so your camera the cameras that we're actually looking at using to make the film are about $15,000 a camera. And rental on those is not cheap either. And so I did a budgetary thing a couple of years ago where I looked at rental for making the movie, and it was $45,000 to rent the camera, the light package, the sound package, et cetera, et cetera. And if I went and bought it at retail, it was $25,000, $20,000 less.
What we need is somebody out there that cares about Canada to donate some free equipment or donate some free rental on some equipment. And we need somebody out there with some money that cares about Canada to actually make a big injection into this movie and get some of the credit for it, I'm sure, and be instrumental in maybe saving our country. I'll tell you, if I had the money, buddy, I would fund the whole damn thing.
Well, and honestly, I've been funding it myself out of my own pocket for the last 2 years, simply because we tried an Indiegogo thing, and it was, regrettably, it was terrible. Indiegogo was out of San Francisco, and they would only take credit cards, and then the Canadians would pay with a credit card, and they'd be dinged in US dollars. So if they donated $100, they'd be 100 US on their credit card, which was like $135, and then the Indiegogo would then turn around and send me 100 Canadian of that. So washed my hands of that very quickly. And I needed some time. I took some time off. I didn't need the time off, but I had a major client call me up and That's why I was gone for a year, because I had to go butter my bread and pay my rent, and the landlord likes his money every month.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear
So
you.
we came back in December with full of vigor, and here we are today, 3-4 months later. Today we're getting a lot more traction than we did when we first came out. I'm a little more effective now with social media myself. A little more effective doing these live stream videos with you. I met Duke for the first time a few months ago, and he was so generous to put me on a show. I think, what now, Duke? Are we four shows or 5 shows? But and so we're getting traction. We last year when I had to go and do my work, we had 28 followers on Facebook. Today we have 375. I didn't have a Twitter account back then. Today we have a Twitter account that I opened about a month and a half ago. We got 108 followers. So we're getting traction today off of our website. We have over 1,200 followers on the website, and getting more every day. We pick up about 10 followers every day on the website.
And you have a page on Facebook too, eh? And it's called The Myth is Canada, right?
TheMythIsCanada.ca or .com, either one gets you right there. NephilimFilms.com will get you to The Myth is Canada as well. And it's just, that's where the information is. That's why we post this. Go read it. It's there. I don't hide behind, oh, well, you got to pay me X dollars before I can divulge anything to you. Hell no. You want to make a donation? Great. There's a little button in the upper right-hand corner that says donate. Push it. Give us whatever you can. I don't care. $5, $20, $5,000. Don't care. It all goes directly into the creation of The Myth is Canada. And like I say, I don't hide the information. My research took 12 years of my life. I did it over a 12-year span and came to the conclusion, I found the missing piece of the puzzle. I was able to get Russell Rogers Smith's book, Ho Canada. I found it on a very obscure website out of Uzbekistan. And I grabbed it and all the other stuff that was on that particular website. And about a month and a half later, I went back to see if the website was still there. I was going to direct some people over to it, and they had taken it down. And got very lucky. The gentleman who revived Russell Rogers Smith's book was a gentleman by the name of John Paul Rahum. And we actually finally made contact with him this year. We had him on a liquid lunch, on a Skype call in liquid lunch. Myself and Hugh Riley interviewed him from Quebec City. In May, he's coming out to meet with us. He'll be on liquid lunch again. And he's the guy that revived Russell Rogers Smith. Russell Rogers Smith is the most hated man in Ottawa. And it's because he was there. He was Mackenzie King's friend. He was a constitutional expert. He was the man that wrote the clauses from the Native Sons of Canada that Mackenzie King took to England, that were put into the Statute of Westminster, that freed the provinces as sovereign nations. So today, the only remedy we have is to seat a de jure government in each of the sovereign nations. And then, if we so choose to do it, we would hold a constitutional convention for a federal authority. But there is no federal authority de jure today in Canada. The central legislature of the United Colony ended on December the 12th, 1931. It was de facto after that until 1982. In 1982, Pierre Elliott Trudeau incorporated the Government of Canada, INC, a maritime incorporation, and today there is nothing underneath it except water. There is no land. There is no eminent domain. There is no sovereignty. So once again, when you look at what Paul is doing, how can they get rid of the ship at sea that claims to be the Government of Canada, INC, and seat a de jure government when there is no land under its feet? You have to have eminent domain. 3 elements of sovereignty. The first one is land under your feet. Without it, no sovereignty. But the provinces all have sovereignty. Why? Because we have land under our feet. Interesting. So once again,
you know, it's good that we do this because so many people don't know. I didn't even know. I didn't know who to back up, who to stand behind. Really, you know, that's why I started doing some research. And then when I started asking questions, I got no answers. And reaching out to you was probably the best thing I could have done because you got the answers. And I mean, it's right there. Like you said, anybody can go out there and do their own due diligence and do the research and Google it. So they don't have to believe you. They don't have to believe me. Go find out for yourselves. But, you know, I smelled a rat. I knew things just didn't sit right, that it didn't make much sense. And, you know, lo and behold, you know, I'm happy that my instincts kind of pointed me in the right direction.
yeah, and you got to really trust your gut sometimes with this stuff because what these guys, and I've said this to privately, and I'm going to say it now openly on the air. I said, what these guys are doing is declaring war against the government of Canada. And when you make declaration of war, what's the normal response? Well, they're going to come and attack you back. And the people that are following, they may not go to the gallows for treason, but there's something called sedition. And sedition holds a life imprisonment sentence. And they can charge you with sedition because you're attacking them.
Yeah.
How wonderful is that?
The government has a right to protect itself. They've actually made them. They gave themselves the right to protect themselves.
I would point out you can both ask Dallas Hills. I believe right now for sure there's 2, I think 3 Canadians in Regina who have been picked up and detained by CSIS. One of them I know by name. He was here in my office on the Sunday, flew back to Regina on the Monday, got off a plane and was immediately arrested. No charges, just held for indefinite length of time. No charges have been filed yet. And as far as I know, what now, a week and a half later, he's still in jail along with 1 for sure, possibly 2 other guys. Could be 3 people in jail. Don't hold me to exact numbers. Dallas would have, Jesse would have the correct information. So they're already fighting back.
And with the myth, we don't attack the federal authority because as far as we're concerned, it has nothing to do with what we're doing.
They don't exist.
We're all about seating de jure governments in the provinces. They're the sovereign nations. The federal authority it's nothing.
They don't exist.
As far as we're concerned. So we're not attacking them. We're not attacking the provincial governments either. We're simply stating in law that if we hold a constitutional convention, create a constitution for a de jure government, the de facto in the province cannot stand in law against it. We're not looking at picking up the sword and attacking anybody. Why? Because we have much more powerful instrument, the pen.
The pen is mightier than the sword.
Yeah.
Anybody who doesn't believe that in this day and age, all you've got to do is look at Ikra Khalid and M103. Her pen and that piece of paper and what's written on it have done more damage to kill this country and to kill we the people and Canada as a country and a culture and a society. That pen has done more damage than both Nagasaki and Hiroshima atomic bombs ever did.
Yeah.
The big victory for them. They took away our freedom of speech.
Yep.
You know, it's a big, big deal. People think that, you just can't talk about Islam. It's more than that. They've just taken away one of your civil rights. You know, that's where it begins, you know?
And now the NDP in Ontario are pushing a law hidden inside this supposed, what do they call it? The Peter Cormos Memorial Wellness something or other. Hidden inside it is a little clause. I told Doug about this. They're changing the owner or the organ donor program on your driver's license from an opt-in, where you check the check mark on your driver's license renewal and donate your organs. They're changed. The NDP, his name is Osterhoff from here in St. Catharines, Greg or Jeff Osterhoff. This is a private member's bill that he's introduced. They want to change it so that the back of your driver's license, you have to check it to opt out of the program. The government is assuming ownership of your body and your organs unless you tell them they can't have them.
Well, here's a funny little piece of trivia for you. Since 1982, all statutes created by the federal authority, I don't call it, it's not a government, federal authority, have no enacting clauses in them. And only statutes with enacting clauses in them can stand in law. Now, the reason they don't put them in is because they're not sovereign. And only a sovereign authority could put an enacting clause into a statute.
Unreal. Unreal.
So none of their laws are internationally legal.
Not even legal here in Canada. They don't have enacting clauses in them. It's not a sovereign authority.
They're more of the
eminent
facade.
domain.
They're just more of the smoke and mirrors and facade that's going on here in Canada, which is what I explained to people about the Unidroit separate signing. That's proof that on the international stage they have to behave themselves. But here inside the playground that they've created, they're allowed to do whatever bullshit they want to do, and they can get away with it because it's their own personal little private playground.
Okay, Duke, the thing is that they can't get away with it if it's challenged. And I've schooled people in the past that the only thing, if you're dragged into the courts, et cetera, you have to challenge their jurisdiction. And each and every time anybody has ever challenged their jurisdiction correctly, not just incorrectly, but challenged it correctly, they've walked out of the court. Every time. If it's done correctly, it works all the time. And that's the problem. We, for our lack of knowledge of how to deal with the federal authority or the provincial authorities, we wind up not understanding and falling into their traps because it's a word game for them. Remember, Duke, when we first started talking, I was very explicit about the words you used and how that if you don't use the right words, then you're falling into the trap. And that's really a lot of what's going on here.
And you still correct me all the time. My audience needs to know that. I am far from perfect. Doug still corrects me all the time. No, that's not what you mean. Well, yeah, it's close enough.
By the way, I
do
it with Jesse and Neil now as well.
Yeah, your words can put you in prison.
Absolutely.
Now,
Gosh almighty, you bet they can.
Yeah.
When they say you have the right to remain silent, remain silent.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Don't say a word. Don't sign any paperwork either. The minute you open your mouth and they say, "Is this your name?" and you say yes, you're done. You're now under their jurisdiction.
There's only
but you remain silent.
There's only four words you ever say. Five. I wanna see my lawyer.
No. I refuse your offer to contract. I decline your offer to contract. And if they drag you in, you're here under duress, and I decline your offer to contract.
Yeah, because
they'll put you in jail for a while. But after a while, they just have to kick you out. I'm saying a while, I mean a couple of 3 or 4 days, provided you haven't actually committed a crime against another person where there's a victim. You haven't beat the crap out of somebody and you're not charged with assault or murder or attempted murder or something along those lines. If it's a victimless crime, they usually let you go. Because it's not that you're not communicating with them or working with them. but you're set yourself completely apart by claiming that you're declining your offer to contract. And that's what they're asking. Every time they ask your name or ask for your paperwork, et cetera, they're asking for your permission to contract. Yeah. They're asking for your consent to beat the shit out of you. So stop consenting and turn around and face the other way and work with us at the Mythos Canada to seat a government that's for the people, by the people. Because this certainly isn't.
No,
it's
ever since inception.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been the same little club that's been running things. I keep saying
you ain't a member.
No, I can take you right back to 1792, and it was never the creation of we the people. It was a corporate dictatorship with total control.
You go back to the Roman times. That's the way it was.
Absolutely.
That's the way it's been since the beginning of modern, what you may call modern man. Since we've been able to stand upright, we've been dominated.
Well, no, actually we haven't. 1066, if you remember the opening, Once Upon a Time, that I read earlier tonight, prior to William the Conqueror coming over, the Anglo-Saxons, they lived free. They own their land.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Allodially. In Canada here, we're in Ontario, there is more land patents in Ontario than there is anywhere else in Canada. And you can actually exercise your right as a man or as a woman to update that land patent in your name and have allodial title to the land that you stand on. And Duke and I are going to do he keeps threatening to bring me back on, and I'm going to explain how that will happen, how you can do that for the people.
Well, actually, Doug, what I want to do is I want to get you and a buddy of mine by the name of Stefanos, who has a piece of deeded land that was granted by the British Crown back in the early 1800s to families who had served in the military and that sort of thing. And he's part of the Ontario Landowners Association, and he's working to prove to the government they can't collect taxes on land that was given to the family. It's not the town's property to collect taxes on. And I'd love to have you and him on the show together to talk about things. I think it would be great to see your minds work together and juxtapose each other.
Well, here's a funny thing. So we know that the last Governor General to Canada, given the British North American Act as letters patent, was a gentleman by the name of Lord Bessborough, and it was done in March of 1931. But in October of 1931, the last land patent was issued here in Canada in October of 1931. So if people say, well, the Statute of Westminster didn't do anything on December, everything was the same on December the 12th. Really? So why was there no more Governor General? And why was no more land patents issued after December the 12th? 1932, no land patents. 1934, 37, 40, 50, 60, no land patents. But October of 1931 was the last time they issued a land patent. 2 months before the Statute of Westminster. People can't, the politicians and the mandarins up in Ottawa, they can't answer those questions because what they're perpetrating upon us is a lie. It's criminal fraud. It's treason to the sovereign people of Canada.
Yeah.
And we have our right to seat a de jure government in all of our sovereign nations, the 10 sovereign nations known as the provinces here in Canada. And if they were to attack us for doing that, they know that other countries would step in to protect us because the other countries know that the federal authority is not sovereign.
Do they really?
Absolutely. There was when Harper was prime minister, there was a story that he went to the UN and he was there to sign a treaty. And he goes, his people take him in, the bodyguards and so forth. He goes in and there's the two security guards at these double doors. And he says, I'm Harper, Prime Minister Harper from Canada. And one of the security guards opens the door, and the person comes out, and he said, gentleman says to him, well, Mr. Harper, you can't be here. He says, only sovereign nations can sign this treaty. And they had to turn around and leave.
Really?
Yep. Yeah.
How do these people sleep at night knowing what they're doing? Yeah, I guess.
The big king-size bed that they fall into that, 6 inches. And knowing getting up in the morning, they've got their beautiful new Porsche and their young trophy wife.
And knowing that their children's children will be taken care of.
Not if we seat de jure governments, they won't.
Well, no, they won't. But if things continue the way they are now, their children's children will be taken care of. Do you think any of Mulroney's daughter's kids, his grandchildren, are going to go hungry or have to worry about whether they buy the top-of-the-line Gucci shoes or the bottom-of-the-line Gucci shoes while you go shopping at Walmart and use the self-serve checkout because they fired all the paid cashiers?
Yeah.
Well, here's the funny thing. Mulroney daughters were very lucky. They were born and looked like their mother, because God help them if they looked like their father. They didn't need to be rich. They were pretty. They could just go marry a rich guy. Anyway.
Yeah, we've been getting led by the nose since I'm young, since I'm a kid. Trudeau, and it goes on and on. It's the line has been perpetuated, or whatever the word is. Forgive me, I'm French, but
you're forgiven. Me too.
For generations and generations, and I tell my kids this, and they look at me in awe, and they think I'm crazy.
Okay, so I was on Liquid Lunch the other day with Hugh Riley, okay, at thatchannel.com, and because it's an election year, I brought on the Little Child case. The Little Child case is a very interesting case. Are you familiar with it, Dan?
No, I'm not.
The Little Child case was filed in the 1990 exactly, in Alberta. And Willie Littlechild was running as a progressive conservative at the time, and he was a part of the Mulroney, I guess it was the Mulroney government back in 1990. And he won his election, promising the people that when he got to Ottawa, he would vote against the GST. And so he gets elected, landslide victory, off to Ottawa he goes, and he votes for the GST. So his constituents went, wait a minute. So they sued him. They filed papers in court, and it went to summary judgment, and the judge said, you don't have the right to sue your elected officials. If they want, they can lie to you to become elected, and you have no recourse. The only recourse you have is in 2 years, when the election cycle comes around again, you can elect somebody else who's lied to you to get elected, and then it changes it all with it. So Littlechild, and this is a precedent across all courts in Canada, doesn't matter what province you're in, it's a precedent. So you vote. What does it mean? Nothing. It's called taxation without representation.
Well, I'm told that even Trudeau, that's why, as much as people call him a traitor and everything, he will never be charged. He's protected. They're protected. I guess it's as easy as saying, geez, I made a mistake, and I didn't know that it wasn't for the betterment of Canada, and all of a sudden he's absolved.
It's called parliamentary immunity.
No, it's called the Willie Littlechild case. That's it. That's all it is. Littlechild case says they can lie to you, get elected, and then give you the finger. And there's nothing you can do about it. Nothing. So we seat de jure governments. We hold them to account. By the way, the debt that he keeps putting on is what we call odious debt. Odious debt belongs to them. When we're de jure, that's their debt. Justine Trudeau, he has to pay it. We don't pay it. We, the people, don't pay it. He created it. His people created it. It's their debt. It didn't come to us. We don't take the money.
Bank of Canada Inc. can pay it.
No. Yeah. Well, he got $160 million from the what's his name, Clintons, for their foundation.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, but we're 1 point something trillion.
Yeah, I know.
Did you notice that he got that money from the Clinton Foundation to the Trudeau Foundation right after the money from Uranium One deal went through?
Yeah. I don't watch politics very much, but I do watch money.
But they say follow the money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that Uranium One deal, Doug, that went through the Bank of Inverlat in Mexico, which
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
which is owned by the Bank of Montreal.
Yeah.
And pallets of money came from Europe. We won't say specific countries, but Europe in general, into Canada and then into the U.S.
Yep.
That's how they got the
If we
money
weren't on
through.
the air, I could tell you some very interesting stories, but I'm not going to do that publicly because
No, we're not going to discuss
I would go to bed
those.
and
You and
wouldn't
I
get
have
up in
had
the-
those conversations on the phone, and we've already agreed we're not going to discuss those things on the air.
Oh, I wouldn't do it, Duke. Anyways, I enjoy being alive.
Me too.
Anyways, I'm looking at the time here. We've been on air for about an hour now.
Yeah.
Well, I was just thinking if there's any.
Because you really clarified. I'm totally clear on what's going on, and I hope that it clarified a lot of people's maybe questions that they had out there, like myself. I know I've been asked by numerous people, which side do I endorse? Why is there two de jure governments? Like Chauvin keeps accusing Dallas of stealing the name, but the fact of the matter is the name is the name. You can't be stealing it. It's there for anyone to use because it is what it is. It's its own entity. You know,
Well, and what Dallas and Neil and so forth are promoting on that is de jure government in the provinces.
right.
What Chauvin and Jeff Fortain are promoting is de jure federal authority.
Yeah, it's a federal government.
So it's completely different.
Yeah.
And regrettably, and I was speaking with Dallas earlier today, he's thinking about changing the name so that it's not going to be confusing anymore.
Sure.
But I think maybe after tonight and the explanations of these founding documents, hopefully the people were watching that were considering joining him and now gone out and do their own research and hopefully the people that have joined these other guys are now going out and doing the research and finding that what I've told them tonight is actually true, and they need to maybe rethink what they're doing.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah.
Yep.
No, that's great. I think this
I was going to ask, do we have any questions? Can we see?
I'm reading the Facebook chat right now, and I haven't spotted any. I'm just scrolling up here.
Yeah, we can't see comments here. No.
Kevin Robertson says, "De jure government ? What's wrong with a government of today?" It's not legal, Kevin. Not in any way, shape, or form.
De facto government.
Why are they allowed to sign the Paris Agreement, John Barassa asks.
Well, the Paris Agreement is based on fraud. Climate change is as pseudoscience. It's not real science.
And it's
Global
put
warming
forward
is
by the
complete-
UN,
complete
which is
fiction.
not really a government.
Well, it's an accord. It's an agreement that says we might cut back on carbon dioxide emissions. That's what it says. It doesn't say you have to do it. It's not a treaty. It's an accord. It's a voluntary accord. So I could sign it.
The government Inc. can sign it because
You can sign it if you wanted to on behalf of the government Inc.
Yeah.
But
you
you
don't
can't.
have to be a sovereign nation to sign such a thing. I can see that. Yeah.
Correct. But if it was a treaty, you got to be sovereign.
Right. Yeah.
Like Unitroy, where the provinces
Correct.
had to sign on independently.
That is correct. And I think that's, Duke, you're so wonderful in bringing this up. because that just goes to prove exactly what I've been saying to people. It's the provinces that are sovereign.
Right.
We have no federal authority that's sovereign.
I want to correct you on a term here, Doug, because you're kind of misleading when you say it's the provinces that are sovereign. It's the people in the provinces that are sovereign.
Throw it back at me.
It's not Edmonton. It's not Queen's Park in Toronto.
Correct.
It's not Vancouver.
It's
the people in each of the provinces.
Right.
Absolutely 100% correct. And by the way, Duke, I explained that to you about 3 months ago, and you got me.
Well,
I think that's
something
fantastic.
I keep pointing out.
Absolutely
to people.
fantastic.
So I'm urging everybody to share this very valuable video and endorse the Myth is Canada page. Let's get some donations going. Let's get that movie going. It may be the catalyst and it may be the saving grace of this country, because it could be the most important tool that we have to get that message out there and to let people know where we stand. So, really share this video. Share this video so that the people that are on Paul's page might join the other side and get the numbers up, and we can actually get this movement going in the right direction. Because it is about unity, and one way of uniting is to actually expose the ones that are misleading us and heading us in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
So that we can leave those people and unite under the proper umbrella, get in the right arena, and get the narrative going.
Exactly. And thank you very much for having me on, Dan. It's an absolute pleasure to meet you finally.
Yeah.
I've heard all kinds of great things about you from Duke and from Jesse and so forth. And they're 100% correct. Thank you
very much for the kind words. And you know what? I heard the same thing. And I really look forward to shaking your hand on Capitol Hill on July 20th. So remember that, folks. July 20th, Doug's going to be there. He's going to be one of the speakers. If you want to get one of those hats, if you want to get one of those T-shirts that he's wearing, if you want to help get the movie going, get that movie off the ground, show up July 20th. It'd be
or come to the mythiscanada.ca. In about 10 days, we'll have the swag up there ready and available for sale. You can get it then, and then take that with you. Wear it for the July 20th.
Awesome.
Show your support with us in the audience.
Before we dip out of here, guys,
Go ahead.
Dave Bondy is asking in the chat, so we have to change the government through using their laws, even though the government and courts are not legit. No, Dave. No, you've got it all wrong. And maybe, Doug, you can explain it to him, that we're not using anything of the existing government or legal system. We're not using their system. That's what other people are trying to do.
Well, and depending upon what province Dave is in, Jesse and his people, Dee and Neil, have been setting up Constitutional Convention Facebook pages for each of the provinces. And what I would suggest is that he types in his search on Facebook to whatever province he's in, and type in Constitutional Conventions blank, whatever your province is, and go on there, and they'll talk to you and they'll explain to you how to do this through a constitutional convention. Actually, Jesse today has released a boilerplate of what could be a constitution. It's an example of what can be done at a constitutional convention, and he explains what the constitutional conventions are and so forth, and how they're completely 100% lawful and legal. We don't infringe upon or even look at the de facto. We don't pay attention to them at all, because who needs to? Why? And they don't want to look at us because they don't want to bring attention to show that what they're doing is illegal. And so it's nice. And I would suggest that would be probably a good place for Dave to start. Go on to the Myth is Canada. Our Facebook page is there. Go on to our website. There's all kinds of documentation that I've created in PDF files that you can download and read. And you can contact me through Facebook or through the website. If you have further questions that you need answers to, I'll be delighted to help you any way I can.
Yeah, and and speaking in endorsement for Dallas, he sent me, because I'll tell you, Dallas really hates to be doubted. So he sent me his credentials.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you something. They're impressive. The man has impressive credentials.
I know that.
Been all over. He's had his fingers in many pies. He's very diverse. And he is very knowledgeable. He's got over 20 years of research behind him.
Oh, I know.
Much like himself, That's why you guys are so knowledgeable. I'm a newbie. I recognize the problem. I've got children and grandchildren, and I wanted to do something about it.
Yeah.
So I made my way up, and I'm the leader of a group. I'm not the one with the answers, but I might be able to point you in the right direction. And that's what my capacity is. I know my limitations. I'm not going to run for government. Paul Chauvin accused me of being jealous. He says, you're just jealous that we didn't ask you to be one of the people in our government. I would have refused, to be quite honest, because it sounded pretty cockamamie. But, fact of the matter is, I like doing what I do. I provide C3. If you read our mission statement, that's what we do. We provide a platform for people like yourself that have the information and that can lead people in the right direction. So I'm happy we did this video. Awesome, job well done.
Thank you. I appreciate the time and the effort that went into it on your side, and I hope the people enjoyed it. Like I say, ladies and gentlemen, what we spoke about earlier, get a pen and paper, write it all down, Google it yourself. I did for 2 hours this morning, and here I am tonight with the information. It's there. You don't have to look very hard. Search engine, type in Magna Carta 1215, Magna Carta 1225, the Treaty of 1213. It's all there. Be it British North American Act. If you really want to get the original documents, go to the United Kingdom's archive, parliamentary archives. And they have a search engine there that you could bring up the original British North American Act, the original Statute of Westminster. It's all there. The original Statutes Law Revision Act, 1893. It's all there.
Gentlemen, we're going to wrap this up.
Yeah.
We all get a lot of naysayers, a lot of people who say, oh, you can't do that. This hasn't never been done, blah, 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 blah. I want to quote a post here on the Facebook page from Ed Jamnisek. Now, I've met his mother. His mother comes from former Eastern Bloc, Communist Bloc countries, okay? Ed's post is, think about how they formed new governments in the Balkans. They had a new constitution written, recognized, and became legal. When all those former USSR, Russian-held countries were no longer part of Russia, they did exactly what Ed's talking about, exactly what we, the people here in 10 independent countries, need to do. It doesn't take years. In our own generation, it's happened to people who are Ed's parents, okay?
Absolutely.
Like, this isn't rocket science, ladies and gentlemen. Why do you think it's called We the People? Because all it takes is people. It doesn't take rocket scientists.
Well, and it takes, I like to be inclusive of everybody. I think everybody has a seat at the table. I got a quick story here. So I had done a video where I've always say it's inclusive. We include everybody. There's nobody that we don't have. And I got an email from a woman who said, I just watched your video and I think you're a racist. And I went back and I reviewed the video that she watched, and I'm going, well, I talked about including everybody. I didn't care about what religion you were, what color your skin was, if you were Islamic, if you were Christian, if you were Jewish, if you were Hindu. I don't care. The religions don't matter. The color of your skin, black, white, green, purple. No, doesn't matter. Everybody, and I mean everybody. the native Indian population of Canada, the Aboriginal people, have been shafted by the de facto for 250 years. They've been fucked, excuse my language, over. They have a seat at the table. Yep. Everybody is everybody.
If anybody,
it's not,
if anybody
questions, just these people here is everybody, and those people over there aren't part of the everybody. And I scratched my head when I rewatched the video. I thought, what video was she watching?
If anyone
because the last thing we are is racist.
Yeah, if anyone wants to question how much the natives have been represented in this whole movement, email me at dukewillis@gmail.com. I will send you a PDF copy of the 1926 Resolution number 2 from the Assembly of the Native Sons of Canada. One of the organizers is Russell Rogers Smith, and most of the group leaders were from various native tribes. They were like the chieftains and that sort of thing, from various native tribes throughout Alberta, Manitoba, and Saskatchewan. And they all came together with this white man who was given a native chieftain title of Chief Wapatananak. I can't pronounce it properly. Wapatananak or something like that. That's his given native name because of what his family did for the natives in the 1920s. During the Depression and the dirty 30s, and when natives were being pushed out of their regular hunting grounds in their homelands onto reserves where food didn't exist, there was nothing to hunt, no animals to live off, nothing.
Anyway,
I can provide that for you. You can read all about Russell Rogers Smith and the Native Sons of Canada. DukeWillis@gmail.com.
Well, thank you, Duke, for hosting this for Dan and myself tonight. And once again, thank you, Dan, for having me.
You're very welcome, and thank you. So hope to see everybody July 20th in Ottawa.
Be there, be square. Bye now.
Take care.
Bye, guys. Thank you for coming on tonight, gentlemen. I'm glad I could be of service. There we go, folks. They're gone. All right, let's see what else we've got here. Desktop audio. We can turn that down. There we go. My microphone is still on. Okay. There's something I want to point out to everybody. I keep telling people that we're all on the same team. We all have one of these flags somewhere, whether we carry it on a weekend sidewalk protest or maybe you've got one on a stick in the window of your car. This is what it's all about. And what we have to accept and what we have to recognize is that, well, think of it, it's Canadian, so think of us as a hockey team, okay? And instead of having 2 defensemen, 2 wingers, and a center, we have a dozen defensemen and wingers and centers. And there's all these little groups of 5 trying to get down the ice and score a goal. And we just found out tonight exactly why a large portion of those groups aren't going to get past the center line towards the enemy's net with any hope of scoring a goal. The important thing that we all need to realize, whether it's Paul Jouvin or Nicole Labrasseur or Mike Traherne pushing a new political party, or the Alberta First Movement pushing we're going to use their laws and their criminal court system to defeat them and their political system to defeat them, or if it's Billy Joyce who thinks that Max Bernier, the 25-year career politician, is somehow going to change the world that he's been living in for the last 25 years. Whoever it is, when you're done taking your rush at the net, when you're done shooting the puck and trying to score your goal, don't skate off the ice just because you didn't score. Turn your fucking ass around, come back down to your end of the rink, and help the next group of people that are moving forward, heading down the rink to the enemy's net, trying to score a goal. Because that's what being part of a team is all about. Okay, Paul and Nicole and all the rest of you who think your way is going to win? More power to you. But when it fails, don't tuck your tail between your ass cheeks and go home and whine on the porch. Nobody liked me, that's why it failed. Do what an adult would do. Curse that you didn't score a goal, but get your ass back here and support the rest of the fucking team that's still playing the goddamn game, okay? Because one of these teams of 5, a center, 2 wingmen, and 2 defense, one of them is going to end up scoring a goal. It might not be Doug Force and the Myth is Canada concept. Who knows? It might be somebody that comes along out of nowhere with a whole new idea and combines a bunch of things together and they score the goal. I don't fucking know. But until Doug and the Myth is Canada, until this ideology of sovereign provinces is proven to be wrong, it's the one I've chosen to promote, accept, and commit to. That simple. If it fails, I will choose something else to promote and accept and commit to. Because that's what being part of that team is all about. It's not about this little group of players. It's about this little group of players using the support of all the other players out there to give it their best shot. And if and when they fail, they don't walk off the fucking ice and turn their back on the people that have been helping them. They skate around the rink and come up behind the net and get in line to support the people who are now moving forward with the next shot on net. Because that's what being a team is all about. Is there a guarantee that what Doug Force is talking about, what I'm supporting, what Jesse is supporting, is there a guarantee that it's gonna work? No. But there is a guarantee it won't work if nobody tries. That's a guarantee. You won't score a goal unless you shoot the fucking puck. That's a guarantee. You gotta shoot the puck if you want to score a goal. And of all the pucks that I've seen, Doug Force, the Myth is Canada, sovereign, we the people, that puck makes more sense and has a better chance of scoring a goal than any other pucks I've seen in this game so far. And I've been looking and watching for a long damn time, ladies and gentlemen. Long before Trudeau ever got elected. Since I was a teenager, I've been trying to figure out what is the missing piece in this puzzle. That's why I know so much about Niagara-on-the-Lake and what happened in 1792. Because as a kid, I've been trying to figure this out. And Doug Force and his information, his facts, not just his beliefs, his facts are what convinced me and still keep me convinced. And he continues to provide more and more of them. That's what keeps me convinced that what he is proposing is the solution we need. Okay, I'm done preaching. Oh, I'm done preaching. I got to go get a bottle of water. And then I'm going to smoke a doobie and call it a day, because tomorrow's Good Friday. I don't know if I'm going to do a show tomorrow night. I've decided I am not going to do a show Saturday and Sunday. It's Easter. I may or may not do a show tomorrow night, but it's Good Friday, and I tend to rant and bitch and scream and curse and swear a lot on the patio. So I think maybe I'll just skip doing a patio show tomorrow night. But we'll see. No guarantees what's going to happen with Friday night's show. But definitely Saturday and Sunday this weekend, go spend time with your family, folks. It's Easter. That's what I'm going to do. My parents are coming over on Saturday. We're going to have a nice ham dinner. The granddaughter's here. Both my daughters are here. Amanda's gone to her parents. It's Easter. Spend some time with your family. Good night, folks. Thanks for watching tonight. I hope you enjoyed the show with Doug and Dan. And, of course, I can't keep my mouth shut. I gotta rant, as always. See you, folks. Take care. Happy Easter, ladies and gentlemen.
Milky smiling, strawberry lips, long white legs and little hips, a butterfly tattoo between your breasts. I fell in love in just one night. You're on my mind, but you're out of sight. Didn't even take the time to say goodbye to Susanna.